and welcome back to The Power of Now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment with Gilda and Barbara. Today we're doing a book study on A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, written by Eckhart Tolle, and we hope you have your copy so that you can follow along. Today we are on Chapter 10, Section 1, A New Earth. My name is Barbara Wainwright, and I'm here with Gilda Simonet. Welcome, Gilda.
Thank you.
A New Earth. Astronomers have discovered evidence to suggest that the universe came into existence 15 billion years ago in a giant explosion and has been expanding ever since. Not only has it been expanding, but it is also growing in complexity and becoming more and more differentiated. Some scientists also postulate that this movement from unity to multiplicity will eventually become reversed. The universe will then stop expanding and begin to contract again, and finally return to the unmanifested. This inconceivable nothingness out of which it came, and perhaps repeat the cycles of birth, expansion, and contraction, and death again and again. For what purpose? Why does the universe go to all the bother of existing? Asks physicist Stephen Hawking, realizing at the same time that no mathematical model could ever supply the answer.
If you look within, rather than only without, however, you discover that you have an inner and an outer purpose. And since you are a microcosmic reflection of the macrocosm, it follows that universe, too, has an inner and outer purpose, inseparable from yours. The outer purpose of the universe is to create form and experience the interaction of forms, the play, the dream, the drama, or whatever you choose to call it. Its inner purpose is to awaken to its formless essence. Then comes the reconciliation of outer and inner purpose, to bring that essence, consciousness, into the world of form, and thereby transform the world. The ultimate purpose of that transformation goes far beyond anything the human mind can imagine or comprehend. And yet, on this planet at this time, that transformation is the task allotted us. That is the reconciliation of outer and inner purpose. The reconciliation of the world and God.
Before we look at what relevance the expansion and contraction of the universe has to your own life, we need to bear in mind here that nothing we say about the nature of the universe should be taken as an absolute truth. Neither the concepts nor mathematical formulae can explain the infinite. No thought can encapsulate the vastness of the totality. Reality is a unified whole, but thought cuts it up into fragments. This gives rise to fundamental misperceptions. For example, that there are separate things and events, or that this is the cause of that. Every thought implies a perspective, and every perspective, by its very nature, implies limitation, which ultimately means that it is not true, at least not absolutely. Only the whole is true, but the whole cannot be spoken or thought. Seen from beyond the limitations of thinking, and therefore incomprehensible to the human mind. Everything is happening now. All that ever has been or will be is now outside of time, which is a mental construct.
As an illustration of relative and absolute truth, consider the sunrise and sunset. When we say the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, that is true, but only relatively. In absolute terms, it is false. Only from the limited perspective of an observer on or near the planet's surface does the sun rise and set. If you were far out in space, you would see that the sun neither rises nor sets, but that it shines continuously. And yet, even after realizing that, we can continue to speak of the sunrise or sunset, still see its beauty, paint it, write poems about it, even though we now know that it is a relative rather than an absolute truth.
So let us continue to speak for a moment of another relative truth, the coming into form of the universe and its return to the formless, which implies the limited perspective of time, and see what relevance this has to your own life. The notion of my own life is, of course, another limited perspective created by thought, another relative truth. There is ultimately no such thing as your life, since you and life are not two, but one. It's an interesting mental construct to think that our universe is expanding and then it will at some point start contracting. I'm not aligned with that thinking personally. Maybe the universe is expanding, although from our little tiny perspective, being human beings here on planet Earth, I can't see that. I can't know that. I can hear somebody hypothesize that that's what's happening, but I don't know if I could agree with it.
I just feel like this chapter talks about like how the world can become a better place, if people change the way they think. A lot of people spend their time in a lot of their lives like worrying, getting angry, wanting more stuff. But like when we learn to like slow down and pay attention and like live in the moment, we start to feel more peaceful and kind. And I almost feel like a new earth doesn't really mean like a brand new planet. It means a world where people are more loving, more caring, and like aware of what really matters. And I almost feel like every time one person chooses kindness or calm instead of anger, the world gets just a little bit more brighter. So I almost feel like this section's about how changing yourself can help change the world in a way.
I think everything that you just said is spot on. And I too believe that a new earth, maybe there's not going to be a new physical place. At the same time, heaven on earth, I believe that we could potentially have heaven on earth if everyone was conscious and awake and aware that we are all connected. We are all one. If I hurt you, I hurt me. So why would I hurt you? I wouldn't, because I don't want to hurt myself. So if you start thinking in terms of the fact that we are all connected, we are all on the same planet, why would I drop poison into the ocean when I know that I'm part of the ocean, right? We live off of fish in the ocean. Why would you poison that? Right. So if everybody became conscious and started acting from a place of integrity and with the knowledge that we are all connected in some way or another, the fact that we all bleed red, that's one way that we're all connected. We are all human beings with a physical body on planet Earth, and we have a spiritual entity that animates our body. And in the spirit realm, we are also all connected. So when we transition from the physical body, and guess what? We all do. Nobody gets out alive. When we transition from the physical body into the spirit world, we are going to meet up with people that caused us harm and pain in this lifetime. Why is that? Because we wanted to learn compassion and love and understand that love is the answer all the time. And the only way to learn that is to go through the hard experiences so that we develop compassion and understand our fellow human beings. So, what you were saying, Gilda, is on point with the fact that a new earth may simply mean that there are more people that are conscious and awake and that are behaving from a place of integrity and honesty and respect and keeping their word and being congruent, doing what they say they're going to do, and with the intent to never harm another, but with the intention to do good, to do right, to do the right thing, to be a good person. If everyone came from that perspective, we would have heaven on earth. I really believe that.
I do too, because we're all part of the same deep, like formless energy, like spirit, God. We're all like part of that. So,
Agreed, agreed.
yes, we are all created in the image of God, meaning that humans have unique characteristics that reflect God's nature.
I so believe that. And I also believe that because of our thinking and our ego, that we forget that sometimes. In fact, I've heard it said that once we incarnate, we have something called the veil of forgetfulness. We forget that we're spiritual beings here having a human experience. And because we forget that we're spiritual beings, we also don't recall and remember our truth, which is that we are of the light. We came here to learn. We came here to learn compassion and understanding and duality, certainly, because the earth is all about duality. There's sun and there's darkness and there's the sky and then there's the earth. There's two sides to every coin when you're here in the physical realm.
Even like there's two sides to the universe, like the universe has like two purposes. Like the outer purpose is to like create things like the stars, people, animals, um, everything that exists really. And like the inner purpose is like for all of those things to wake up and realize that underneath everything, we're all part of like the same deep, like formless energy. And I almost feel like when those two purposes come together, like something beautiful happens. Like the inner awareness starts shining through like the outer world and like changing it for the better.
Yes, yes, and yes. So,
Like it's about us bringing more consciousness, more kindness, and like more awareness to the world, if you will.
yes, yes, agree. So, with that said, this week and for the rest of your life, it would be great if you start contemplating that. Maybe do some inner reflection. How can I be more aware of not just myself and what's going on with me, but what's happening with someone else in my world? What's happening with you? How are you doing? Checking in with somebody, asking what's going on with them, finding out where they're at, having some compassion, be a good listener, find out how you can maybe, do they need anything from you? Do you need to follow up with them? Just be a good listener, listening to what they have to say, or a shoulder to cry on if that's what they need. Something where you're outside of yourself, focused on being of service to another. If we all did that, can you imagine the world that we would be living in and how enlightened and uplifted everyone would feel?
There would be so much joy.
Yeah, I think it'd be inner peace, which creates outer peace in the world.
Exactly. It would all just go hand in hand.
Yeah.
If everybody did their part to be kind and loving, like the world would be a better place. Yeah, if everybody came together, by waking up and becoming more aware and like not living through our ego, like that part that always wants to be right or like better than others, and we start living with like love and awareness, we could create a new earth. It's not a new planet, but like a new way of living, like where people are kinder, calmer, more connected. And that would bring so much peace, love, joy, happiness. Like it would just be so beautiful.
It would. And I do believe that we could get there. And that's where I believe that divine purpose comes into play. I believe that we all have a divine purpose, that we all incarnated and chose the experience of being a human being here on planet Earth so that we could fulfill a purpose. You think about this. You come in from spirit, you're in spirit realm. Everything's perfect and beautiful and sunshine and roses and butterflies, and all the animals are loving. Nobody's worried about an animal taking a life, and no animals are worried about dying at the hands of a human because there aren't any. It's all spiritual beings, right? So
Yeah.
you're in that beautiful place and you're going, yeah, I could do a human lifetime. I'd like to experience that duality and see what that's like in the physical realm and see what it's like to have a body and stuff. Yeah, let me try that. And then we come and incarnate and we're asleep. We don't know that we're spiritual beings having this human experience. And it feels so heavy because we're used to being light beings with tons of energy and light, and we can manifest in a snap of a finger. And it's a different realm. We are in a physical realm. We came from a spiritual realm. So when we get here and we forget that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, it's a shock. And then we start to get treated unkindly, maybe not by our parents, but life in general can be harsh sometimes. And when that happens, we start to build up our defenses, right? Our homeostasis survival mechanism kicks in. And that's when we can start operating from ego because it's our survival to stay alive and keep going, even though nobody gets out alive. We don't know that or don't think about that. I think it's a huge challenge that we take on when we decide, yeah, I'm going to go try and incarnate, see what that's like. What's it like to have that physical body? I think we have no clue when we make that decision, what we're jumping into. And then we get here and it's a shock. Now, all that said, if we can now become aware of all of that and realize that if we can act from a place of integrity and love and kindness and doing the right thing and being kind and thinking of others rather than thinking of ourselves all the time, then we can have heaven on earth.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, and I think it does require changing our perspective. And I think that with this section that we just read, that's what Eckhart's trying to do. I don't know. I just would like to encourage everybody to think about these things that Eckhart's saying, where he's trying to shift our perspective of looking at life like it's all about me and it's my ego and it's my stuff and my thing and me, to looking at it as, hey, we're all in this together. We're all human beings. We're all here trying to get along. So why don't we do what we can to get along, to inspire, to be kind, to be nice, like Gilda was saying, to be nice, to be friendly, to be uplifting, to see how we can be of service. How can I help you? What can I do to help you to have a really great day? And maybe if we can go about the rest of this week and maybe the rest of your life with those thoughts in mind, the world will be a different place. And when you meet somebody who's not being nice or kind or thoughtful, maybe saying, hey, sounds like you're in a bad place today. Is there anything that I can do to help you shift that? So that's a great question. How can I help you shift that? If you see somebody that's not having a good day, you could simply say that. Can you shift your mindset? Can you shift out of that mindset? Can you shift into a grateful mindset? Can you shift into a mindset of gratitude for everything that's happening in your life? Because it's happening for you, not to you.
The best part about asking that question is that that question alone could be the shift.
Ooh, that's good. That was really good. That question alone could be the shift. And there's been a lot of talk about shifting into the fifth dimension of Earth. Instead of right now, we're in 3D. Imagine shifting into 5D. Well, if we do that, meaning if we keep asking that question, can you shift it and make it happen? Maybe that is the shift. Thanks, Gilda.
You're welcome.
All right. Until next week, hope you have a good one. Bye now.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and you'd like to go deeper into a spiritual conversation, you can join our Facebook group, The Power of Now, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment with Gilda and Barbara. Or you can contribute by going to wainwrightglobal.com/go/support.